Ravens, the Steelers, the Browns, the Bengals. Where do you want to start?
I mean, I'm going to just say this now. I'm not going to make the people wait. I'm picking the Browns to win the division. I mean, I think it's their time. The amount of talent that they've assembled with the leaps that Baker Mayfield is expected to take, and I'll have more on him in a minute. I decided to go bold here. You can listen to NFL previews on all these different media outlets and newspapers and things like that, and I'm going to be bold. I think the Browns are winning the division. I mean, the Steelers are going to be very good. You're replacing Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell with James Conner and Juju Smith-Schuster. I think both guys are up to the task. They still have an excellent defense. The Ravens are expected to not be bad. You got Lamar Jackson, his first year at the helm. Mark Ingram there. You bring in Earl Thomas, even though Baltimore, I think, lost way too much defensively. And then you got the Bengals who, you don't know when A.J. Green's going to play. Andy Dalton's kind of on his, second leg here in the NFL.
Yeah.
And I don't really like Joe Mixon that much. So there's not much to say on the Bengals, but I really do think this is Cleveland's time. I think they win the division.
I have to say, I agree with you. I think Cleveland has more talent. I have a feeling the Steelers are going to pull out the division. And it's not because I live in Pittsburgh, but I really feel like they're a team that has experience. I can't believe I'm saying this because I'm usually the last one to say this, but I really do feel like Antonio Brown, losing him is addition by subtraction. I think just not having to deal with him is going to really help this team because it did feel like he was a distraction a year ago, and I think they're going to be just fine without him. I think they have a lot of talent at receiver. Likewise, I think Jesse James left. I think Vance McDonald steps up in a big way. Very solid offensive line. I think what this season is going to come down to is their defense. For the Steelers, if they can put up a defensive effort that ranks them in the top 10 defensively, they're going to be one of the top teams in the league and in the AFC. If they don't, and some of those guys don't step up the way that they're hoping, I think that's where they're going to have some difficulty. But if you go just a couple hours drive up from Pittsburgh and you end up in Cleveland, you look at a team that has as much talent as anyone in the league, Jason. And I don't for a second begrudge you that pick because on the receiver side, you have Odell Beckham, you have Rashard Higgins, and Jarvis Landry as your 1, 2, 3. David Njoku is their tight end. I mean, the receiving talent there is crazy. Defensively, they have Sheldon Richardson and Myles Garrett up front, along with Olivier Vernon. I mean, that is like a cheat code up front. And then you look in their secondary, and they have so much talent there. The question is, will inexperience get them? And that's what I'm betting on, is that there's a few spots on the offensive line and the linebacking core and a few other spots that I'm just not sure about with them. And I've just seen the Steelers do it, so I'm going to go chalk here. I'm going to pick the Steelers with all due respect to the Browns. I agree with you on the Bengals. I think they're kind of over the hill. I just don't trust Dalton. And the Ravens, it's just a little too much 1990s football going on right now. I don't know if this is a team that can come back from deficits. They're talking about throwing the ball 15 times a game, Jason. I just want to say that one more time. 15 times. That is up there with the least passing attempts that we would see in the last 10 or 20 years. And they're thinking of that as their game plan in a league that's going towards passing the ball 50 times a game. So I'm a little worried if they fall behind in games, if they're going to be able to come back. So with that, I'm going to go Steelers 1 and Browns 2.
Well, for the sake of argument, it's good because, when the Browns end up folding under pressure and being a team that takes turmoil, you could rub it in my face. And you're going with the smart pick, which is the Steelers. But like I said, I'm going to be bold on this podcast because it's more fun that way. Wait till you hear my MVP pick, and that's just a little tease for later.
Oh, I love it. So let's go next. We've got AFC South. This is a division that just had a ton of turmoil. We just saw Andrew Luck retiring, Colts fans booing him. I mean, there was just a lot going on there. And then the Houston Texans come around. They trade Jadeveon Clowney. They make a few other moves. They end up getting my beloved Dolphin, Laramie Tunsil, to fill in on the line. One of the worst lines in football a year ago. Now he's going to be stepping in. That should help. I mean, do you feel like between those two moves, that's enough for the Texans to get by the Colts? Is there another team in here, Jason? What do you make of this division?
Well, with Andrew Luck's retirement, I think Deshaun Watson is the bona fide best quarterback in the division. Marcus Mariota hasn't really panned out. Nick Foles, you know what you're going to get with him. And then you have Jacoby Brissett and or Brian Hoyer starting in Indianapolis. So right there, they have the best offensive player in the division. They have the best receiver in the division, DeAndre Hopkins. I think they have one of the best defensive players in the division because J.J. Watt could still do it. They traded Jadeveon Clowney to the Seahawks, but in turn, they get Carlos Hyde. They get Duke Johnson Jr. as their 1-2 running back tandem. You get Tunsil and Kenny Stills from the Dolphins, as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And they're a team that's going for it all now. I think Jacksonville will be a team that's there. The Titans, I'm not too sold on. And then the Colts, I mean, they had a great offseason. It's a shame with everything that happened to Andrew Luck and, him retiring from the game altogether. But, right here, right now, this is Houston's division to lose.
I think the thing that's going to be really interesting to see what Coach Bill O'Brien does with this offense. You mentioned you thought the Jets had the best receiving core outside of a number one. How about this Texans receiving core, Jason? They have DeAndre Hopkins, Kenny Stills, Will Fuller, and Kiki Kuti. I mean, a lot of those guys could be twos on other teams, and Kiki Kuti is going to be the four for this team. So I mean, goodness gracious, they have an absolute just wealth of talent there on offense. I'm a little nervous about the moves that they've made defensively, though, because they just lost their best pass rusher, and I wonder where that's going to come from. So for me, the team I think is going to take this division is the Jacksonville Jaguars, and really it comes down to one thing to me, Jason, which is just that I think that the upgrade from going from Blake Bortles to Nick Foles is going to make all the difference this year. And I think it's going to have a trickle down effect to a few of the other players on this team. I think a guy like Dede Westbrook is going to have an enormous year for them. I think he is going to have just a career type year for them. I think we might even see him as one of the preeminent receivers in the conference by the end of the year because I think the difference between Foles and Bortles is so great. And I think Fournette is the other guy who's going to really benefit from that. And then, of course, the defense. This is a team that has a lot of guys who can get to the quarterback, but it's awfully hard to get to a quarterback and to even get interceptions when the other team is up 14 points. And now, this defense that can absolutely gobble up offensive passers and defend in the secondary with AJ Bouye and Jalen Ramsey is now going to get a chance to do that after a year where they were so often behind the teams just kept running on them all day. So I think it's going to make all the difference. I think Foles leads them to the playoffs and the division crown in Luck's absence. But with those two teams in mind, Jason, what do you make of the Titans and the Colts before we move on to the AFC West?
Like I said, the Colts had a great offseason. I think that Chris Ballard did a good job building through the draft. And then Andrew Luck, their franchise player, made the decision to retire. I think they still have a very good running back in Marlon Mack. I'm not sure what T.Y. Hilton's going to do because, it's no secret the Colts passing game is not going to be what it is. Defensively, I think they have a pretty formidable unit. They have good linebackers. They got some speed there. They have some rookie corners, and I like Paris Campbell, the receiver from Ohio State. And then Tennessee, I mean, if Mariota doesn't put together a good year, the Titans are going to be looking for a quarterback. And I remember when he came out a few years ago, they were, crowning him as the next best thing, and it just hasn't worked out so far. So I think it's going to be a race to the bottom for Tennessee and the Colts, and I think it's a two-team race.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of the Titans, to be honest. My concern with the Colts, and this might sound a little weird, but I think that they built the defense based on the offense. And that might not make sense to some people, but if you recall those Colts teams with Peyton Manning and some of the Packers teams with Rodgers, they built the defense to be a lighter, faster defense to play in these kind of more up pace, faster pace games, up tempo games. And I wonder if the Colts defense, their decision to get Ford, to get these guys who can really defend the pass, or excuse me, I said Ford, I meant Justin Houston. Um, but they got a lot of guys who I felt like were good pass defenders, guys who are going to play against the pass. And now I wonder if they're going to have to be a team that slows things down a little bit with Brissett behind center. So I don't know. I'm a little worried there. I'm very curious to see what happens with the Titans because they feel like a team that has a lot of talent and has just underachieved. So I don't know if it's going to happen now with the coaching staff there, but they are interesting to me. But at any rate, let's go to one of the other kind of premier divisions, a division last year that had two teams that finished 12 and 4. Both the Chargers and the Chiefs were exceptional a year ago, with the Broncos and Raiders kind of bringing up the rear. Jason, do you think it'll be different this year?
Not at all. I mean, I think it's four teams that have all potential to be very good, but this is the Chiefs' division to lose. You know, they are locked, loaded. They are primed to win a Super Bowl. I think this is a year they could get over the hump. Denver, you know, they're an up and coming team. They still have a great defense. The Chargers is the team that I think will finish second in that division, even though no Melvin Gordon. It looks like he could sit out the whole year. I think they have enough to get it done. And then the Raiders probably spent more money outside of the Jets than any other team this offseason. You know, they get Antonio Brown, they get Trent Brown. You know, they get loud rookie and Jonathan Abram, the safety, the star of Hard Knocks. Not sure if you watch it, but you know, no one knows what the Raiders are going to get in their final season in Oakland. I think they're going to be too distracted by the move to Vegas. So yeah, I ultimately think this is Kansas City's division to lose.
So I would say in this division, I completely agree with you. First of all, I think the Chiefs are head and shoulders better than the rest of the division, and I think it has to do with a few things. One of which is that they have just an offensive line that are just a bunch of maulers, and that's going to really help them. They've got one of the best receivers in the division. And he's not even a wide receiver, and that's Travis Kelsey. I think the receiving core is superb. They just got LaShawn McCoy, who's going to be really great for them as a backup running back. They're going to be able to really get ahead on teams, let the kind of the dogs out on defense and just chase down those opposing quarterbacks, and then just run downhill all game long once they're ahead. Rely on play action. So I think they're going to get out there. I do not believe in the Chargers though, and there's a few reasons why here. First of all, I don't know what's going to happen with that offensive line. Russell Okung is out. I think that's going to really hurt them. Defensively, I like what they can do as a pass rush. I'm not sure if I like the rest of the defense quite so much. Um, I I'm also just wondering if this receiving core is going to be up to the task, and if Philip Rivers can maintain. I'm a little worried there's going to be a drop off, and I feel like the Broncos are the team that are going to kind of pick up the pieces there. I think the fact that they got Vic Fangio from Chicago, I think he could really turn this defense into a monster. When I look at that defensive team, I think people see the Chargers as the best defense in this division. I think the Broncos are the team with the defense that could end up number one in the league this year. Bradley Chubb and Von Miller could combine for over 30 sacks this year. And that's not, I don't think that's a crazy statement. That's how good those two are. And their secondary is still so good. Um, I think they really struggled with Keenum last year, and I think getting Joe Flacco is going to really help them. Even though he's not a great quarterback, I think he's a good fit for them. I think that they're going to be able to run a lot of play action with Flacco. He's a guy who will push the ball down the field, and when he does that, it just opens up the running lanes. I think that's going to be good for Freeman and Lindsey. I think you're going to see a lot of running, a lot of play action, and I think that's going to really help propel them to the playoffs this year.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. All right, let's pick our wild card. So we got the Patriots. We both have the Patriots. You both have the Chiefs. You have the Texans. I have the Texans and the Browns. You have the Steelers and the Jaguars. So who do you got for your wild cards?
I got the Browns and I got the Broncos.
And I'm going with the Steelers and the Chargers. So it looks like we have similar playoff fields here. And we'll move on to the NFC now.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start in the NFC East. So neither one of us are Giants fans. I would say that if I have a soft spot for any team outside of my own, it's probably the New York Football Giants. But this is not going to be a great year for the New York Football Giants, Jason. I think we both know that. While they have Saquon Barkley, there's just not much there. Daniel Jones is impressed in the preseason, but I don't know that they're really ready to make a playoff push. I don't think that they have the talent, despite that 4-0 preseason that I think has a lot of New Yorkers excited. And I think likewise the Redskins just aren't there. They don't have the talent either. They're going to be potentially starting a rookie for large stretches, and I think that makes this a two-team division with the Eagles and the Cowboys. Do you agree?